Good morning. Lovely to see you. Got my little glass of water. A bit dry this morning. Welcome to my living room on another sunny day. And we had a lovely day yesterday. We met in the grounds of Monk's Yard at a distance, and it was lovely just to see so many people from our fellowship together, seeing each other face to face. It was lovely. And we even had ice cream. It's great. It's a great afternoon. A day that started rainy that turned out into a fine afternoon. How lovely. So we're in Luke chapter 7, and we've come to another story. A lot of the stories of Jesus are around meals, There's a lot goes on around a meal. That's why it's going to be so wonderful when we can all meet together and eat together again. And it's interesting that we've had comments about Jesus eating with the tax collectors and sinners, but in this story from verse 36 to 50, that Jesus is sitting at table at the invitation of Simon the Pharisee. Not Simon Peter, it's a different Simon. This is Simon the Pharisee. He is a religious hero, a well-known person in his community for his piety and for his observance of the law. And he invites Jesus to eat with him. And he goes to his house. And a woman gets into the house who is a prostitute. She's just technically called a sinner, but she earns her living through prostitution. And she comes with a jar of ointment, an alabaster jar of ointment, a very expensive item. And they would have reclined at table, of course. That was how they did. In those days, they didn't sit in chairs like we do. He reclined at table, so his feet were to his back and his torso and head towards the food on the table. And his feet, she bathed his feet with her tears and dried them with her hair. And she anointed his feet with oil, or the ointment. And the Pharisee was doing what we've been told in the previous chapter not to do. He was judging her. He was judging Jesus. He was saying, if Jesus was really a prophet, he'd know who this woman was. He'd know what she was like, and he would tell her to go away. He wouldn't tolerate this behavior. It's an exhibition here in public, and this woman, nobody who is worth anything and who has any hope to be a religious leader in this community, will tolerate this woman being near to him, because her very presence will make him unclean. And Jesus knew what he was saying. He was thinking and said to him, "Teacher, I have something to say to you." And he tells him a little parable, just a little story. He just says a creditor had 2 debtors. One owed him 500 denarii and the other 50. A denarius was a day's wages. So it was quite a lot of money that was owed by the first, and quite a lot by the second, but nothing by comparison. And he asks, when they couldn't pay, and he cancels the debt for both of them, which one will love him more? And the answer is obvious. The one who was forgiven or had the largest debt cancelled against him. And he's comparing Simon, who, even though he is a Pharisee and he is an observer of the law, would be aligned with the one who owed the creditor 50 denarii. And the woman is compared to the one who owed 500. So he is actually saying to Simon, even though you think you're perfect, you still need sin forgiven. No one's perfect. There's no one who hasn't sinned. And you see, this woman, she has shown great love for me. And you're not expecting even forgiveness from me. And by comparison to her, you haven't even taken the dust off my feet when I arrived. You haven't cared for me. You haven't shown love to me. You've just invited me to dinner. But she showed love to me. And I find it very interesting. As I was pondering, I was saying, Lord, these are obvious points. This is obvious thinking. But it's important to say it, that this woman was completely rejected by the Pharisee, but accepted by Jesus. But even though she was accepted, having lived the life she'd lived up until that moment, her sins were forgiven, and the expectation was that she would live differently. I don't know how she managed it, because there wasn't much work for women who didn't have a male protector. But Jesus forgave all her sins, and he forgave. He would have forgiven Simon's sins if Simon had acknowledged them. But what it's saying here in this story is that no matter what your past, no matter where you come from, what you've had to do, what you've done willingly or unwillingly, it doesn't matter what you've got into, there's always salvation. And it's a truth of life that the more aware of your sin you are, the more you will love the one who forgives you, the one who has paid the price for you. And as we study the scriptures, we can see that actually sin, all sin in God's eyes is the same. You know, we tend to think of lesser sins and greater sins, and that's just the way we think about things. But all sin separates us from God, and that's the issue that Jesus came to solve, to bring us back into relationship with God by forgiving us our sins. But as I was reading it, the thought that came to me was, we don't know this woman's name. It might be Mary, because John tells a similar story, but much later on in the life of Jesus. There's no reason to think it didn't happen twice. It may well have happened twice. Look at Captain Sir Tom, who did all that walking. There were others who heard what he did and emulated him and did similar things. So it's not impossible for this to have happened twice. And in John's account, it is the sister of Lazarus who anoints Jesus' feet. But there's no suggestion that she was a sinful woman, that she was a prostitute. So it may well be a different woman. But we don't know her name, but we know Simon's name. Isn't that strange? That's something to ponder. The one who was forgiven less, we know his name, but we don't know her name. But we will always remember this act that she did when she came. And my cry has been, Lord, I haven't got into nearly as much mischief as this woman did. I want to love you as much as she did. I want to emulate her. I want to serve you, even if it means getting down on my knees and washing your feet. But we've all sinned. We all need forgiveness. And the amazing thing is, this is what Simon, those who were around the table said, who is this who even forgives sins? How is it possible for Jesus to forgive sins? We've got so used to the fact that our sins are forgiven that sometimes we lose the wonder of it. That without the death on the cross of Jesus, there is no forgiveness for sins. And we have forgiveness because of what he's done. So, that's enough thinking for today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye-bye.